Going on? This is A1 Groundwalker, one of the hosts of the Shutterbugs podcast, and I'm here today with one of our Shutter Larva episodes with Bryan Carter and Gary Foster, aka Cap Lives and the amazing Geeky Fresh on Instagram. Sadly, my two co-hosts Alex and Finn could not join me. They are preoccupied with family business, so I am just joined by two amazing guests. One of them is a reoccurring guest, and the other is completely new. You guys can say hi.
What's up, everybody?
What's up? Second time on the podcast.
I like Star
Glad to be
Wars.
here.
Exactly. So I'm super excited. Bryan is a pretty diehard Star Wars fan as well as Gary. So this is going to be some really awesome discussion. I am super excited. So I think we can just start getting into it. For anyone who has not seen the episode, please do not watch this yet. Watch it when you have already seen the episode, because we're going to be breaking down spoilers, just all spoilers. There's going to be no non-spoiler discussion here, so you can click out of this video, go watch it, come back, or you can do whatever you need to do, but this is going to be completely spoilers. So with that being said, let's get into it. I'm just going to summarize last night's episode real quick, and then we can kind of discuss everything that happened in our general thoughts and in details about some Easter eggs. So we start with obviously the cliffhanger that was left on us from last episode with the name, actually it was 2 episodes ago, with the name drop of Ahsoka Tano by Bo-Katan. So we start obviously in the city of Calavan on the forest planet of Corvus, where Ahsoka was rumored to be. And I mean, honestly, it just jumped right into it. Ahsoka was literally on the screen within like the first minute of the episode, which was phenomenal. So we saw her. Obviously, the mercenaries were attacking her. She dealt with all of them. And then she gives a warning to the magistrate saying one day she'll come back to basically interrogate her, for she needs some information from her. And to liberate the village. And so then we leave off on that, and we get Mando arriving on the forest planet of Corvus as well. And he arrives with the child and then goes to the city to try to find information. Everyone's unwilling to give him information because they're kind of scared about talking to him. And then the magistrate, who is Morgan Elsbeth, wants to see him. He goes in and she tasks him with killing Ahsoka Tano. With the prize of a pure Beskar spear / staff, I guess, as the prize. So he takes it, obviously willing to deceive her, and goes to find Ahsoka. Finds her in the middle of the forest. They duel, have a quick 1 versus 1 for a second. And then Mando kind of explains to her his situation, how he's sent to find her to deliver the child. We get to see Ahsoka and the child meditating for a bit, and this is when we first learn of the child's real name, which is Grogu, and get a little bit more backstory on him, how he was raised at the temple, and many masters had trained him, and he was hidden because someone took him from the temple after the purge of the Jedi, Order 66. And so then Ahsoka says she will test out his Force abilities in the morning. We get that scene where Ahsoka's trying to give him a rock and then have him push the rock back at her, and he fails. But then Mando uses his little favorite toy from the ship, the little gray sphere from the controls, and he's able to pull that. And then Ahsoka, seeing the bond between them, says she cannot teach him because he has too much of a strong connection to Mando, who he sees like a father. And she kind of brings up Anakin Skywalker as an example, subtly, of what too much attachment can do to a Jedi. And then once I guess Din Djarin Mandalorian states that the magistrate sent him to kill her, they agree to basically liberate the village, and Ahsoka get the information from the magistrate if she agrees to train Grogu. So they go through with this plan. There's a pretty big battle that ensues that's great. And then we get another 1v1 with the magistrate and Ahsoka, where Ahsoka wins and then asks the magistrate, who was kind of building up to whoever her master was, where is Grand Admiral Thrawn, which was pretty cool to hear. And then basically we don't get an answer from the magistrate as to what's happening. It just cuts away, so we don't really know. But then the village is liberated. Mando says he's going to go get the child for Ahsoka. And then Ahsoka follows him and says she will not teach the child because, again, his attachment is too great. However, she does tell him to go to planet Tython and at the ancient ruins of the temple, go to the Seeing Stone on top of the mountain, and Grogu can choose his path. And if he calls out using the Force, a Jedi could possibly go and find him. And that was basically the whole episode. I just, again, that was a quick summary. Now we can kind of go into open discussion about what everyone thinks. Brian, do you want to start with what your general thoughts were on the episode?
Yeah, well, I only saw it once. I normally like to watch the show twice, but upon first watch, I was talking to Gary and some of the guys in our podcast, and I said at first I was a little disappointed, but actually I just had really high expectations because it's not like super well known, but like some people know that Ahsoka is my favorite Star Wars character ever. So I had really high expectations coming in, seeing her live action for the first time. And I think I just wanted more. But then upon like reflecting on it, I just like, you know what? As the episode as it is, it was a really good episode.
I completely agree. Gary, what do you think?
Um, I felt like this was probably the best episode of the series so far. Just the simple fact that they didn't waste any time on introducing Ahsoka, and that was great because usually when you get a show like this and you get a character that everybody's really excited for and wants to see and hear from, they wait until like mid show to really give that character that shine. But Dave was like, "Nah, this is my child. She's getting all the shine today."
Yeah, I completely agree. I actually really love the episode, and at first, I mean, this is going a little specific. It's actually not that specific, but I know Brian. I had talked to him about this. He didn't think it was going to happen, but I had a little bit of hope. But in Star Wars, the Solo movie, basically Solo, Darth Maul is played by Ray Park, but voiced by Sam Witwer, the voice of Darth Maul in the Clone Wars and Star Wars Rebels. So I didn't know if they were going to take a similar approach with Ahsoka Tano and obviously use her Clone Wars Rebels voice actor with the real actor's, physique. Like, again, they chose the actress, I'm spacing on her name, who plays Bo-Katan in the Clone Wars to play her in live action. So I didn't really know how they were going to go about that. And again, they just ended up using her regular voice, which I at first was like, this is very interesting because, again, Ahsoka has a very unique voice because this is her first live action debut, and we've had her Clone Wars and Rebels voice kind of instilled in our heads. But I think, why am I spacing on this actress's name? I'm spacing on both Bo-Katan and
Rosario
her.
Dawson.
Yes, thank you. Rosaria did a great job at mimicking a lot of Ahsoka's in terms of her animated style, a lot of her mannerisms and kind of
Yeah.
behaviors, which I really liked. And a lot of her, I guess, the way she spoke and the way she acted, I could really see that as the character Ahsoka. And I think that's a lot of Dave Filoni's work, of course, but I think she did a really good job of portraying Ahsoka.
Yeah, like her first lines, at first I kind of thought it was Ashley Eckstein, but I was like, oh, that's Rosario Dawson. But she did a really good job throughout the episode of she sounds like Ahsoka. Like you can tell that Dave Filoni knows this character because he created her, and he was like, hey, like she talks like this, she moves like this is her mannerisms, this is like her ticks, and I think they brought that out really well live action.
Exactly. I
I
completely
think the only
agree.
thing that was missing was like her fighting in terms of how she wielded the lightsaber. Because
Yes.
Yeah.
Ahsoka wields the lightsaber very differently, and it's like backhand, forward hand type
Yep.
of thing. And the entire time it was both forward hand.
Yep,
And I was kind of like, oh, what's
I was-
going
I
on?
think-
with that?
I thought it was kind of interesting because like throughout the episode, I watched it with my sister. She's a big Star Wars fan too.
Yeah.
And we noticed that how she holds them both front-handed, but then at the end of the episode, she finally goes to the backhand. I was like,
Exactly.
that's kind of cool. It's kind of like a build-up. They're building up to her holding it backhanded.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't even think about it until that moment happened at the end of the episode and she switched it over when she lost one of her sabers in the water. I was like, oh my gosh, she hasn't even been fighting with the standard, like both of them behind her back or even just one behind her back the whole time. So that kind of struck me. And again, I do, there's many reasons. It could be that it was just so easy for her to fight with just both of them forward. And then like she actually, since she lost one, she needed to use her normal style. I have no idea, but it was cool to see. But yeah, I do completely agree with Gary. I think it would have been cooler to see her actually utilizing that form throughout the episode because we see it in Rebels, we see it in Clone Wars, and it'd be nice for like a little continuity to see that. But again, it's harder. I'm assuming that Rosier like actually played Ahsoka through most of that episode because she had all the makeup on, so she probably couldn't do a ton of in terms of like the fighting with both sabers behind her back. But maybe they had a stunt double who could have, and it was just a like I'm trying to think of the right word, just an oversee on their part. But I still really liked the way she fought.
Yeah, this is like I liked it, but like a lot of her fighting was very close quarters, so you didn't get like the agility that you normally see from Ahsoka when she fights with the saber. Like if you watch her fights with like Maul or
Yep.
Vader and Rebels, like you can tell she's a very agile fighter.
Yep.
And when Rosario was doing, she was just cutting through people like it was nothing. I thought it was kind
Exactly.
of cool. You don't normally see a ticked off Ahsoka, but you saw it in this episode, so I thought that was really different.
Yeah.
I like that.
Loved it. Absolutely. That first like couple minutes when she was using the darkness, I was like, oh shit. That was tight. That was the best shit she was doing.
It was
They
really
built her
good.
up as like a horror character, which is something
Yeah.
you don't normally see not only from Star Wars, but not only from a Jedi. But like Ahsoka is normally considered like a smaller character, so having her be feared as something that like just pop out of the shadows, I thought was really cool. Because we normally don't see that kind of stuff. We saw it with like Krell in Clone Wars, and aside from that, that's about it.
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, specifically with Jedi, yeah, I really liked the way it was executed at the start, and it was like very secretive. It was kind of like almost they jumped us right into Ahsoka, but like they kind of played it up through that whole scene until we actually got to see and hear her like in her full. We just got to see her sabers, which was a really cool thing to see. Yeah, so I really dug that too. I think, and I completely agree with Bryan, where we didn't see a lot of her, flips and flexibility in her fighting style, as well as the, form she always uses. But I also, when I was watching it, kind of attributed that to, again, there's been a fairly big time jump between now Rebels and this, within a couple of years. So of course she's not going to be as flexible, as athletic as she was, and especially not as she was in the end of Clone Wars season 7, where we last kind of saw her, I guess, chronologically, like in this year. But yeah, I definitely liked how she was, and I think Bryan can agree with me. The Rebels and Clone Wars callbacks, like for example with her owl, Mori, I believe, in the swamp, and you could kind of hear the owl making noise like throughout when she was walking the swamp, and then her theme being at the start of the episode and at the end of the episode, I loved, because that's her theme from Rebels first, during Twilight of the Apprentice, and then from season 7 of Clone Wars, and now it's in the Mandalorian as well.
All the callbacks, like the music, I don't want to say I was surprised that she had the white sabers, because that's the last time we saw her with them. Last time we saw her, she had white sabers. But seeing them, that was really cool.
Yeah.
But just seeing the sabers done in live action was really cool. But it just goes to show you how simplistic the Rebels style was, because those sabers looked very basic when she was holding them in the episode.
Completely agree. It was also, I know Bryan will agree with me, really weird to see them not with the skinny blades like we're used to in Rebels, like to actually see them with normal live action, thicker blades, and like the thicker hilt was just a little weird to see. But I got used to it very quickly at the end, but at first it was really weird to see those white blades like in their fullness.
I didn't even register it, because like the whole thing with like the sabers and Rebels being so thin, that's such like a non-issue for me. It's something I kind of just don't really recognize when I watch the show.
Yeah,
because normally I only recognize when people actually bring it up as like a complaint of the show. But when she, like, they were like the normal thick blades, I was like, okay, that was cool. I just saw them as the white sabers. That was really cool though.
Yeah, I completely agree. One thing, I don't know, I want to hear what you guys thought about this, because I actually thought about this when I was watching the episode, but to me, her, I don't even know what you'd call them, but Bryan, like, her, I don't even know what they're called. I guess they're not horns, but you know what I mean, like that stick, obviously.
Oh, yeah, all right. See, I had this problem throughout the episode. This is where I got a little too critical of the episode, because this is my character. So I was like, they're way too short.
Yep, exactly.
Her
Thank you.
Her mantras were way too short to be at this age. It could work like a Clone Wars era Ahsoka,
exactly.
But like
they were the Clone Wars size.
1 and 2.
Yes.
Not seasons 3 through 7, because they're bigger there too.
Yep.
I was like, they're
even
too small.
the toy is pretty big.
Exactly.
Yeah, like
the toy
they were
is
too
huge.
small, and they went backwards instead of coming up, because like her horns come, or her mantras come up.
Yep.
And then I thought her leg, like her the tails, I thought those were too short too. Like I said, it looks great for like a Clone Wars era Ahsoka, but this is after Rebels, and they were already big in Rebels. They were gonna grow even bigger after.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. They were bigger in Rebels, so I was assuming they'd still be tall, but they were they reminded me drastically of like early Clone Wars, like you said, and so I was really confused as to why they were so short. So that was one thing I noted down that I was like, okay, this is definitely quite a bit different from what we're used to seeing with older Ahsoka.
Yeah, I saw it in I talked about it in a Facebook group, and like you could attribute it to someone saying like maybe they made them shorter because they didn't want the actors to go through that, but they shocked the big ones in the prequels, so
Exactly.
that's not really a great reason.
Yep, completely agree. Gary, how'd you feel about I don't know, Brian knows the correct term. I have no clue.
You said Montrals?
Yeah, Montrals, I
Is that what
think.
they're called?
I think that's what I heard.
I just called her
Montreal. I'll look it up.
Okay.
Tigrudas.
I'm like, yeah, that's their hair. Yeah, I also agree. Like, them shits were hella small, and I mean, but it didn't. I mean, it didn't look terrible. But then, like you said, if you are a huge Star Wars fan, a fan of Ahsoka in continuity, you're just like, wait a minute, those are a little too small for this timeline.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's a minor gripe, and you're probably right. They're probably really will be really heavy for an actress like Rosario, because Rosario little people know Rosario's a bit of a diva, and she probably didn't want to go through that shit.
Yeah, exactly. True.
Wait a minute, she's also in what's it called, right? The
Daredevil?
shit, the Galaxy Kid team. Guardian. She's a Guardian, right?
I don't. Maybe I don't know.
Rosario Dawson? No, she's not a Guardian.
Is she any
in,
role in the
Netflix
MCU
stuff.
besides? Yeah, she's.
No, I'm talking about
she's
Guardians of the Galaxy.
No, that's Zoe Saldana, who's Gamora.
Oh,
Yeah.
dang, I sound like a racist. Yo, Zoe. Okay, cool. Because I'm about to say Zoe, she's doing both. That's sick. You get Rosario and Zoe. Yeah. You're right.
Yeah, but she is Claire in the Netflix series Luke Cage, Daredevil, and Jessica Jones. So
Yeah,
she is in the
yeah.
MCU technically, but she's a part of the Netflix, I guess, versus that. I mean, they're both the same, but she's over on that side.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking at like a picture of Ahsoka's like evolution now. Yeah, the look that we got in this show is very more akin to like season 1 Ahsoka with like the Montrals and the head tails.
Exactly, very true. Here, I'm gonna pull up a picture of Ahsoka and screen share it. But yeah, I completely agree. That definitely threw me by surprise when I saw it. I was like, oh, that's definitely different. But again, it didn't really phase me too much. Like the whole episode I wasn't focused on it, but I definitely noticed a pretty big difference when I saw it. I was like, okay, that's definitely different.
I was so excited just watching her.
Exactly.
I noticed it when she had her hood on.
Oh, yeah, because it didn't stick up. Yeah, because, I mean, I think what's
Yeah.
iconic is in both Clone Wars, but first in Rebels when she's, standing behind Sabine and she's got her cloak
Exactly.
on, and it's like her, obviously, again, I already forgot what they're called, but they're basically sticking out so high because of the cloak. And so that's a very obvious indication of how big they are, and it's kind of like her silhouette. And in this, it just seems
It's
so
such a
small.
defining part of her silhouette, I was going to say, because when she has the hood on, they stick up. It just like that's how you
Exactly.
know it's Ahsoka, as like opposed to some random Star Wars character.
Exactly. So,
Random song character.
So I just put a picture of Ahsoka while we're talking about her on the stream. But yeah, I definitely understand where that was coming from. First of all, let's talk about the child's name, Grogu, and the backstory we get of the child now. That was pretty interesting as well. What'd you guys think about that? Did you guys like that he was trained so, like he already is using the Force, or did you want Ahsoka to train him, or are you okay with this new endeavor Mando's going to be going on?
I thought it was pretty cool. I think the moment they mentioned his name, I was like, finally, yes. We don't have to start calling him Baby Yoda anymore. We can finally call this child by his name.
Exactly.
Grogu. And I was just so excited about that. I was just like, oh man, he seems like a Grogu. He looks like a Grogu. Shit. Like, I was like, that's the perfect name for him. I kind of understood why she didn't want to train him. And if you think about it, like she's not a Jedi anymore. So
Yeah, very true.
if he needs to be trained by a Jedi, it can't be her anyway.
Yeah.
So she kind of already knew that. And I think that she couldn't explain that to the Mandalorian because he wouldn't be able to understand that either.
Yeah, that's very true. Very, very
Because he was already defensive, like, So what do you mean? I did all this and brought him here. I did my part, bitch. What you gonna do? What you gonna do? It's your turn now.
Exactly.
It was sort of like a custody war at this point.
Yeah.
You know, it felt like, yo, I can't take care of this kid no more right now. I need you to handle it. And she was like, nah, I got business to handle, basically.
Yeah, now that you bring it up, because that was one of my biggest problems with the episode, like in general, that she never corrected him. Like when he kept calling her a Jedi, I was like, she's not a Jedi. I would have thought that she would have told him that, but you saying that her explaining it to him probably wouldn't have really done anything, because first of all, he doesn't know what a Jedi is. Second of all, her trying to tell him that I have a lightsaber, I use the Force, but I'm not a Jedi. His brain would have cracked in half. He couldn't even handle people taking their helmets off when they were Mandalorian.
Yeah, he was wild. He was about to start shooting Bo right there.
So true. No, I completely agree with that point too. I was just more bummed at the end of the episode, where I was super excited to get this new journey to Tython, obviously, and to see what Grogu's path will be. But I was like, it felt at the end like, oh, we just got a one-off Ahsoka episode versus she'll be in this again. Because now I'm feeling like we'll just get Bo-Katan and Moff Gideon as like the end of the season arc instead of Ahsoka. But I could be wrong, but that's what it felt like, because like Ahsoka will obviously be on this planet now. She has, the information on Grand Admiral Thrawn, so she'll, I assume, be meeting up with Sabine and looking for Ezra at this point. So it feels like we're not going to really see her again. But that could be wrong, and Bo-Katan could, or Din Djarin could call upon her to help with Moff Gideon, or she can just come back into it. I have no idea, but I definitely want to see more of her, because I really liked seeing her this episode in live action.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty interesting that that Grand Admiral Thrawn name drop, because again, during the entire episode, when it comes to episodes where characters who aren't from like the live action stuff come in, like my mind is going in a million different directions. Like, how does this tie back to here? Well, this takes place then. What's going on now? Where are certain characters? So like when this episode happened and Sabine wasn't here, I was like, why isn't Sabine here? Last time we saw Ahsoka in the timeline, she was going to find Ezra with Sabine.
That's true.
So when she says, where is Grand Admiral Thrawn? I was like, okay, so she still is on the quest, but I just makes me question even more where Sabine is.
Well,
but
I mean, that's my question too.
Before.
Yeah, well, that's what I was about to ask you. Do you think this takes place before Ahsoka goes to meet Sabine and then continue the path, because she's like doing this and then goes and finds Sabine, or is she with Sabine? Either Sabine's just not with her at this moment, or Sabine's off on another planet chasing down another lead, or like, what's this timeline look like? Because again, we know that the end of Rebels takes place where Sabine and Ahsoka meet at the after the Battle of Endor, but we don't know how long between that and when that happens, because again, this takes place after the Battle of Endor as well, obviously between 6 and 7, so we really don't know exactly where these two stories are going to fall in between.
I figured they just split up.
Go ahead.
I said I figured they just split up. Like,
yeah,
you go check this part of the sector of the planet or the galaxy, and I come through checking over here, type of thing.
Well, that was my first thought too.
Too much.
Yeah, I completely agree with that.
I think that where they are right now, I think this takes place probably either it takes place before or during. Either they're split up right now, or she hasn't gone to go after Sabine to have her join. Hopefully, though, I think Gary was talking about that this might lead into an Ahsoka show that involves like the hunt for Ezra, like the search for Ezra, because I always thought that was going to be an animation. I never really thought it was going to be in live action, because I never thought that was a possibility. But now you might get them trying to find Ezra in live action, which would be kind of interesting, since we're doing the Bad Batch of animation, and we can do Ahsoka's show in live action.
Yeah, I know. I'm very curious to see it as well. I really want to see what they do. One thing I want to touch on that actually really, I think we talked about it earlier, but it really meant a lot to me, was like, I love, obviously, just Star Wars music. It's amazing, and I love specifically when it's interweaving through the continuity. So through Clone Wars, Rebels, Mandalorian, the movies, the solo movies, all of that. And I really liked how, like I said earlier, we got Ahsoka's theme a couple times through this episode. And I also really liked, just for the briefest second, when Ahsoka's sitting down with Mando and describes how she has met one of Grogu's kind, Master Yoda. We get to hear Yoda's theme for just a little bit, while she also describes the Force very similarly to how Obi-Wan does in Episode 4, where how the Force, connects to all living things, it surrounds us, that kind of whole... we got a small portion of the spiel, but that's kind of what she was saying, and so it was really cool to hear the music through the episode and the callbacks to a lot of the earlier films, the shows, etc. I really like that.
You got good ears, so I definitely did not notice any of that stuff.
Well, I'm always
I was
hunting.
just so into it. That's why I was just like, yes, talk to me.
I was thinking about this. My sister brought this up, but we were both thinking Ludwig Göransson did a great job with the score on this episode.
Yes.
Now, I don't know if he redid it Ahsoka's theme and Yoda's theme, or they just pulled them from previous parts of the saga. I have a feeling he just redid them, and if he did a great job, he's been killing it so far with the score of this show.
Completely agree.
He might have to get a movie if they ever do.
Oh, I think we lost Bryan for a second. He went on mute, but I completely agree, Bryan.
When I'm done talking, I just mute myself.
Oh, okay. You just cut off kind of abruptly for us, so I was making sure. But yeah, I completely agree. He did a great job with the score. And like I said, I don't know if he used the old ones, to interweave, or if he actually just kind of reorchestrated them, but they were fantastic as well. Something really cool we got to see was how lightsabers, specifically Ahsoka's and Beskar, interacted in this episode. Pure Beskar, at least. We got to see.
Me and Gary were talking about this. We were like, wait, I guess Beskar is lightsaber proof now?
Well, that's what, because I don't remember specifically a scene in the Clone Wars or Rebels where, we really get to see a lightsaber try to cut through Beskar. But, I mean, we clearly see it in Mandalorian where Ahsoka tries, when they do their 1v1 quickly before they know each other, tries to attack Mando, and it just stops on his armor. And then especially we get to see it in the end battle with the pure Beskar. I don't know if it's a spear or staff or a mix of both because it has a pointed end.
Staff.
Yeah, but we get to see a little duel between the Magistrate and Ahsoka where, again, it serves as... it's like a material that can block a lightsaber. So it's technically a duel, even though they're obviously both not using lightsabers. So that was really interesting to see. Because, we really haven't seen that before, at least in that kind of detail and focus. So that was really cool.
Yeah, it was definitely interesting because if... now, I'm pretty sure I don't think every Mandalorian has Beskar because it's supposed to be really hard to find.
Yeah.
But in Rebels, Gar Saxon gets shot in the chest by a blaster and dies. So
I forgot.
They're lightsaber proof, but not blaster proof.
Well, yeah, that
Mando's is blaster proof, but I don't think Gar Saxon's armor is made of Beskar.
Well, that's what I don't know. Yeah, exactly. I think a lot of it's really hard to tell which armor is because again they color it a lot of the times like Bo-Katan's, like a lot of other Mandalorians, the Ren clan, specifically Sabine, where they paint on it, they just have different colors symbolizing different houses, etc. We don't know if that's pure Beskar or if pure Beskar only looks like hold on, we just got a gift from Zoom. We no longer have a 40-minute time limit, so that's nice. But
I saw that.
Or if pure Beskar is only chrome, if it's it has to be in that color, you can't paint over it, and that's why the Mandalorian has it. So we don't really have an explanation of that, I believe. But even Boba Fett's armor, going back to episode 5, it has dents in it from blaster shots, etc. So we really, it's hard to see, because then again, is that now Beskar because it had a dent? But Mando never has any even scruffs on his armor from blasters or lightsabers. But Gar Saxon shot through the chest with a blaster and dies. Boba shot in the head with the blaster and leaves a dent. It's really confusing continuity-wise what the strength of Beskar is, and if it's on every Mandalorian or if it's just in very select quantities.
Yeah, I think with someone like Sabine, I think hers might be. The only reason I say hers is probably Beskar is because in season 2, Vader deflects a blaster off of her shot and it hits her helmet, but it doesn't penetrate or leave a dent. It just bounces off and kind of knocks her out.
Well, and I mean, I think it is continuity, but Boba Fett's armor is Jango Fett's armor, right? He just retools it. And if it is, will we see that, I guess, at the start of Attack of the Clones, and it has that chrome finish, so we can assume that's Beskar probably. And that's why it's held up under, blaster fire. So, I mean, it does make sense. It's just we don't have really concrete explanation as to whatever the Mandalorian substitute for Beskar is until they get Beskar, like Garsax and like other Mandalorians.
I don't think so. I don't think Boba's armor is made of. I don't think Boba's armor is the same as Jango's.
Really?
I always thought it was different. I thought that Boba killed a Mandalorian to get his, and I thought Jango's was just. I thought Jango killed one as well, but they killed different Mandalorians for their armor.
Interesting. I honestly don't know. I couldn't be able to tell you, but that's really, I have no idea what it is.
Also, it would just simply be the strength of a blaster too.
Yeah.
Because not every blaster is that strong. Because like you said, when Dinge got shot up or whatever, he's getting shot by those weak ass stormtrooper blasters. He should have died.
Well, yeah, exactly.
But it was weak though. But
yeah,
and then they're stormtroopers, so they're supposed to be weak.
Yeah, but yeah, that was a little. I mean, again talking with Bryan about that, I'm just like, what is the continuity there of Beskar? But again, it was still dope to see. Like that was a really cool scene where we see Ahsoka try to cut through Mando's armor, and it was kind of also cool to see, although Ahsoka kind of dominated him, to see them fight because Mando does hold his own at least for a couple seconds, and even like. It was so cool to see Ahsoka's little smirk when she jumps over the tree and pulls him up by the string.
Such an Ahsoka move.
Exactly. It was such an Ahsoka move, which was awesome to see that continuity flourish through. And when Ahsoka meditates with Grogu and you see her kind of smirks and the way she talks is just like we talked about earlier in the episode. It's very reminiscent and very true to the Ahsoka character, which of course we can thank Dave Filoni for. But yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah, I think. Now, I do like that one of the things they did with this episode was that... Oh, I forgot what I was going to say. Dang it. No.
Oh, no, Bryan. Here,
y'all go ahead, and I'll come back in with my thought.
Well, just real quick, while Bryan obviously tries to come in with his thought, we'll do one last kind of thing. Predictions for next episode, where this kind of route's going to take us. What we can see, because let me just remind everyone, first of all, with the grand kind of arc that goes through the Mandalorian show so far, Moff Gideon we don't really know what he's doing, but he has a lot of subjects who are under test and he's doing experiments on with the child's blood, it's presumed. We don't really know what's going on there, but we got that teaser at the end of last episode. So we don't know if obviously, when he takes the child to the Jedi Temple, if Moff Gideon will meet him there, we'll obviously have tracked him. Because, again, we did also get the teaser of the tracker on a ship. Or if Moff Gideon might go to Corvus and find Ahsoka. We really don't know what's going to happen because, again, Mando's ship has a tracker on it. So are there any predictions you guys have or theories of what's going to happen? Or are you guys just kind of playing it by ear and just enjoying the ride so far?
You want to go, Gary? Because I remember what I was going to say.
I feel like I'm enjoying the ride right now. After it, because season one you kind of had I wouldn't say a story because it wasn't that tight of a story.
Yeah.
But it was very linear. You knew what was going on, and here it's sort of different things are happening. So the quest has been fulfilled, but not quite yet, right? And then you still got the issue with Grand Moff Gideon.
Yep.
And then. Are we not going to see Ahsoka anymore? This is it? This was all right, here's the fan service, get out my face.
Exactly.
That type of thing. I don't want that to happen. Or me and Bryan were talking about earlier, is this going to lead to more live action series?
Well, exactly. And I also had that thought in my head too, I had the thought about Ahsoka last night, but even this morning, I'm we still have the Boba Fett arc to even understand.
That too.
That was just an Easter egg, or are they revisiting?
That was a problem I had.
Yeah, because we basically we're getting it seems like every season's 8 episodes, just like the first one, and if this is the 5th episode, we have 3 more left, and it seems like Moff Gideon's kind of that arc is taking over. So are we going to see Boba in season 3? Does that mean, or is he going to try to make an appearance in this? We don't know if that was just a little tagged teaser that he was in, and that's it. The same with Ahsoka, where actually she got a full episode, but that's it. Or if we're going to see both of them returning in the end of the season. That's a completely open-ended question that's very confusing.
Yeah.
I have a crazy prediction that I remember now that somebody was talking about, and this is gonna piss Bryan off. Um, so the whole thing with Boba, right, and the fact that the show is called The Mandalorian, it's very like open ended to who can be the Mandalorian. And now that we know there's multiple Mandalorians in the solar system, or not the solar system, but in the universe, that could hold up this mantle, right? So what if this is Disney's way of trying to bring back Boba Fett? Like Boba Fett's already back, right? But he wasn't back.
So are you saying like
this is like a John Wick type of situation where somehow, some way, Din Djarin dies, and then he has to finish what Din Djarin started in return of bringing back his honor.
No.
I know you're not gonna like this shit. I knew you're not gonna like it.
Hey,
That makes no sense. I'd rather have Bo-Katan take up the mantle of this show than Boba Fett.
I mean, I would definitely I want to see more of Boba Fett regardless, a lot more Boba Fett, but I would be definitely pretty sad if Din Djarin died because we've gotten pretty attached to him as the Mandalorian in this series. And again, I'd probably even be more happy if Bo-Katan took the reins, only again because she is a true Mandalorian. She descends from one of the royal houses. She's sister of Duchess Satine versus Boba Fett, who, according to both Clone Wars and
Boba's not even a real
exactly, he's not a Mandalorian.
He's just a clone. He's just a clone.
Yeah,
that
so
ages slower.
No, he's not a real Mandalorian. But remember, Mandalore. We learned that there's two different types of Mandalorians, right?
That's true.
There's the old
But
ways.
he's not even a foundling. But he's not even a foundling. He just stole the
It's a creed, though. But it's about the creed.
Yeah, he could become. I completely agree. It's definitely a valid theory. It's just I don't think personally I would want to see it come to fruition just because I would like to see Boba more in his role as a bounty hunter and continue that more aggressive approach of him rather than him becoming sympathetic towards the Jedi, especially when Luke and Han are basically the reason why he suffered in the Sarlacc pit. I'd probably rather see that.
I'm gonna shut this whole theory down. There's a rumor that they've already started shooting a Boba Fett TV show.
Oh my!
So it would make no sense for him to take the role of the title character of the Mandalorian if he's getting his own show.
See, I do agree with that, but then now this poses another question I saw. Someone was wondering, now that we've seen Ahsoka in live action and there's no technically really record of her after the Mandalorian TV show, do you guys think that in some time in this season or next season that she will be killed off? Or do you think she'll continue to live until whenever? Because again, we don't have any indication that Luke Skywalker ever meets Ahsoka, which I'm hoping that happens one day. But yeah,
I've heard that theory.
So I have no idea.
Well, see, this is where Rise of Skywalker is a little questionable because she talks to Rey, so she's probably dead by the point of Rise of Skywalker.
That's true,
but who? But I don't think they're going to kill.
Rey?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
her and Kanan.
I want to watch that.
See, okay, but this is also going back though. This is one of the things I was hoping they would do is they would use the Clone Wars voice actor, because if they're using Kanan's animated voice and Ahsoka's animated voice, and then we get live action Ahsoka and it's not the same voice, that messes with my head because it's obviously part of the same cinematic universe where it's actually...
It's all canon. It all counts.
I know.
It's both voices.
It's just... Exactly. But point being, yeah, I completely agree. Was there any other Jedi that wasn't deceased that talked to her? I thought there was one that, one or two, but if that's true, then yeah, she definitely could be dead at that point in time. But again, that's another... long time in the future, decade or two.
Ezra never talks to her. So
that's
if you want to go off of that assumption, but Ezra also never became a Jedi, but neither did Ahsoka. So
well, yeah, but
again, questionable. The Rise of Skywalker is a questionable film. So
that's true. Yeah,
Ahsoka never became a Jedi.
No. Yeah. What? Wait.
She quits the Order, and then she never becomes a Jedi.
That's true.
You mean Jedi Master, or just a Jedi?
She was never a Jedi Knight.
Jedi. Because even in Rebels, when they go to a Jedi temple, she's like, I can't open it. I'm not a Jedi. So Kanan and Ezra have to do it.
Even though she could give most Jedi Knights a run for their money, that's quite funny that she's actually technically not one. Even though she's very strong in the Force.
She never stopped the training. She just never went down the path of a Jedi.
Yeah.
She's still strong in the Force. Kept up her lightsaber techniques and stuff, of course.
Yeah. Yeah, very.
But I remember I was going to say,
What were you gonna say?
About the Beskar. So the reason so me and Gary were talking about this, and I do like. I don't know if this is a retcon, but I do like that they made Beskar like lightsaber proof because that would make sense why the Mandalorians were able to go to war with the Jedi easily and not have them be lopped off because their Beskar was able to like protect them.
Exactly. That's what I thought of too when that happened. I was like, okay, this makes more sense why they had such a like, just a huge war, and they are the ancient enemy technically of like Mandalorian and the Jedi. That makes sense because they actually can fight each other and it be a good fight rather than completely unfair because of the Force, etc. So yeah, I definitely like that.
Fair for anybody.
Yeah. My theory though, after this episode, like this episode ended, like it was a book into an episode. It doesn't set up anything for the future of this season.
Yeah.
So either because there's only 3 episodes left, and if we're going to take notes from last season, then I would think that the season finale is technically going to be 2 parts. Because if you watch Mandalorian season 1, the last 2 episodes, they come on different weeks, but they tell one cohesive story. Like,
well, yeah, I mean,
essentially.
I'm thinking very similarly to you, Brian, where I think next episode is going to be this journey
Filler?
to Tython.
Well,
I don't think it's going to be filler. I think it's going to be the child's journey to Tython and this whole him doing the Seeing Stone. And then the last 2 episodes are going to focus on Moff Gideon and what he wants with the child, and Bo-Katan getting the Darksaber, and like this whole plot that we've been building up to for the past couple episodes. I think that's what's going to be. But then it still leaves the question, is Ahsoka going to make an appearance? Because I don't think she has a place in that last arc. She possibly could, but especially Boba Fett does not have a place in any of these last arcs. So I don't think he's going to be coming in either. And that was like the first episode teaser was like, oh my gosh, we're going to get Boba Fett this season, and it's never played out. So like it's just very confusing as to what their end plan's going to be.
I have some thoughts about that too, because I was talking to my sister about this. And I was telling her, I think I told Alex this. I said some things in this show I feel like are set up by this show to be answered in other Star Wars media.
Well,
so like Boba Fett coming back, I feel like that's going to be answered in his show.
Well, if he gets a show, I agree.
Journey like to find Thrawn, that will be answered somewhere else. You're not gonna see them in The Mandalorian. That would be weird.
Nah, I doubt that too.
So some things, I said that with Bo-Katan, her search for the Darksaber, you may not see that in this show. Like at least not this season. You may not see it this season.
Yeah, but I also like, isn't it? I mean, if we're getting Moff Gideon, who has the Darksaber, I would assume that Bo-Katan's going to be chasing him, and then we'll come to the Mandalorian's aid when fighting him, because again, Moff Gideon's going. So that's what I think is going to happen, but Ahsoka and Boba are just up in the air.
But Sasha Banks was interviewed recently, and she said her episode or her appearance this season was a one and done. And I find that hard to believe that Bo-Katan would go somewhere without her backup.
That's true. I don't know.
Damn liar. That's what that means.
And again, it also begs the question, like Brian was saying, what about Sabine? Is Sabine going to be in any part of this season, or is she just kind of forgotten about at this point and we'll get her later down the road or not at all? Because, again, she plays a really important part in Rebels with Bo-Katan and basically leading the Mandalorians, and then
she's
also
wielded the Darksaber.
Exactly.
Like,
she last had. I mean, or no, she gave it to Bo-Katan last, but
he gave it to Bo. Yeah,
but I mean, she's used the Darksaber before. She has a strong connection to it, and then she's also helping Ahsoka. So she's been in 2 of the main characters of 2 episodes' lives, like pretty heavily, and we still haven't seen her in this series. So it's very. It again begs the question: her, Ahsoka, and Boba are like, are you guys coming to this season, or are you just not going to be in it anymore? Was your cameos enough?
There's one more character that's rumored to show up, and if he wasn't in this episode, then I don't think he's going to be in this season at all.
Yeah, Captain Rex
was rumored to show up.
Yeah, I was thinking about it too. The
didn't
whole time.
show up.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I honestly can't tell you, because I thought when they were doing their assault on the village, Rex might come out to like help or Sabine. And I was like, okay, like then we'll have like a big assault. But it was just Mando and Ahsoka. So now I'm like, is she with no one right now? Like, is she just solo? And again, like Gary and we were all saying, is Sabine and her kind of teammates on other worlds.
I'm actually fine with Rex not showing up, because he would feel out of place to me in this show. Like Bo-Katan would make sense because she is a Mandalorian. Boba Fett, I guess, makes sense, I guess. But we did get Cobb Vanth, and we have been to Tatooine before. Ahsoka kind of made sense, even though she's never really a Jedi, but whatever. But Rex showing up wouldn't make much sense because if he wasn't with Ahsoka, where would he be? Last thing we know about Rex is that he was in the Battle of Endor.
Exactly. And it also begs the question, too, because in The Rise of Skywalker, we see the ghost. Is that Rex and Hera? Is that Hera, or is that Hera's son? Or is that Ahsoka also on that ship and she was communicating to Rey down, fighting Palpatine? Like, we honestly have no clue who was piloting the ghost in that battle, right, Bryan? I don't think we know.
No, we don't know, but I think it's Jason and Hera.
That's what, as I was stating this, I was like, you know what, it probably is Jason Syndulla, but you never know.
He'd be old enough.
Exactly, because he was born,
his 30s?
Well, wait, would he be? Because wasn't he, was he born?
Well,
he had to have been born right as...
She was pregnant with him during Rebels.
Yeah,
so there's no way that...
Exactly.
That's supposed to be Kanan's son.
Exactly. So it's got to be...
before the show even ended.
Yeah, so he would be probably around the right age. But, Yeah, because, Luke's like in his, obviously, late teens, early 20s in the fourth movie, and that's a little before that is when Jason's born, and so we can definitely assume, he'd be of age. So, I think that's a great theory as well. I just don't know. Is Sabine back with them? Is Ezra back with them? Like, we literally have so many questions about Rise of Skywalker we always have questions about, but mainly about the Rebels crew and Ahsoka and their role in the later part of the Star Wars universe.
That movie causes so much problems. That movie causes so much problems.
Hey, I hate Last Jedi more, but we'll talk about that.
Piloting the Ghost? Who's piloting the Ghost isn't really a big deal. Like,
no,
that really
it's not a big deal. But like you just said, like as a real Star Wars fan, you're thinking continuity, and like the Star Wars movies, like they're more or less like a foundation. Whereas like Rebels, Clone Wars, the other movies, even Solo and Rogue One, those are the walls to the house of Star Wars. Exactly. Because it builds upon the lore of which George Lucas has already established.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So even though like regular people who are just like, I just watching the movie just to watch the movie, they don't care. But us, we're just like, yo, what the fuck?
Exactly.
Man, who's piloting that ship? How is she talking to her?
I said this on my Instagram story. This show, like the Bo-Katan episode, this episode, these kind of episodes make me wonder how enjoyable is this show really for people who aren't like into the cartoons or the books. Like Cobb Vanth showing up. I'm pretty sure a lot of people thought that was just Boba Fett from Jump.
Well,
you said pretty much like, if you just watch the movies, how are you enjoying the show?
Exactly. Because there's, again, the first season didn't have many tie-ins. It was just kind of a cohesive, like, all new characters, all new story. But then the second season was like, all right, we got that done. Let's just start bringing in tie-ins with Clone Wars, with Rebels, with all of these different, comic cons, etc. And now I feel like anyone who's watching the show, like, they still probably are enjoying it, but they're like, what the heck is going on?
Yeah, like if you watch this episode, you wouldn't have any clue that you wouldn't know that Ahsoka Tano quit the Jedi Order.
Exactly. You wouldn't even know who Ahsoka Tano is. Is she like, who's she the apprentice of? Is she just a random Jedi? Why is her lightsaber's white? Like, you'd just be mind blown.
Yeah, because like I listened to like a few other like blurred reviewers and shit like that.
Yeah.
And when they're reviewing stuff, it's so funny to me because like, you know that you don't watch Star Wars because it's just like, if you're not hyped, you wasn't hyped when Bo-Katan showed up on screen and you can't explain to me who she is. Like, y'all just getting paid by whoever you're getting paid by so you can talk about the show.
Exactly.
Because you don't know. Because like one reviewer literally just completely glossed over Bo-Katan's reveal. Just like, this chick with the, who wearing Mandalorian armor shows up with a crew and they start shooting people.
Exactly.
And I'm like, what?
It's like, that's the thing with the show. Like, it kind of blurs the line between being accessible and being like inside like the lore, because like Bo-Katan showing up, I don't like saying names, and this isn't like a slight to this guy, but what's his name? Just Jay Hernandez. I love Jay. He's awesome. But he's like someone who doesn't really take into account like the cartoons. He's like, and it's not Mandalorian or the movies, he doesn't count it, which is understandable because some people think, well, why would they mix mediums or why would they do animation and live action? And then my parents who don't really watch like the cartoons or stuff like that, but they watch the movies, and I love watching them watch the show because they'll like someone will show up and then they'll get a look on their face and I have to explain it to them. But for some people who don't have that person there and don't want to look it up, they just be like, so we're just getting these characters like Bo-Katan. I guess she's cool, but I don't know who that is.
Well, like I'm excited because again, I've told Bryan like I'm rewatching it, and now we're into season 2 with my dad, and I can't wait to tell him like because I mean for people who don't know who Ahsoka is and they get told who Ahsoka is, I feel like it'd be like a big jaw-dropping moment. Like, are you kidding me? Anakin had an apprentice? Like, what? Like, this makes no sense. Like, it just completely blow their mind.
We never saw her. Why? Like, who is she? We never saw her. Like, well, that's explained in the show, but you gotta watch the show.
Exactly. And again, for a lot, I mean, I have friends who I've been telling to watch Clone Wars, and they're just getting into it. And I'm like, you gotta sit through a lot of, I mean, again, they're not bad episodes, but they're just very boring sometimes and very long. I'm like, you have to sit through a lot of that before you get into literally some of the best Star Wars stuff. And that's true for Star Wars Rebels and Clone Wars, but I feel like a lot of Clone Wars stuff is more interesting to a lot of people who are just kind of casual Star Wars viewers because there's a lot of lightsabers and a lot of like the, you know, young Jedi like at their prime versus Rebels, which again, I thoroughly love and so does Bryan, but that's also a lot based on the rebellion and fighting the Empire and, you know, the Force, and like it's a little more focused on that rather than just the Jedi Order at its peak and the Sith and like the big kind of Clone Wars we get to see a lot of conflict of. But either way, I think if you're a Star Wars fan, you're really missing out on watching Clone Wars and Rebels because certainly it's some of the best Star Wars material we get, and it also further explains a lot of stuff in the movies and the Mandalorian TV show. Guys, I think
Finn's in the chat.
I know Finn was telling me. I think we're pretty much ready to wrap up. I think we hit our goal for time. Is there anything else before we just kind of wrap up? Is there anything else you want to touch on with this episode specifically that we didn't get to?
I can't wait for them to drop another Ahsoka.
Yes, this updated look. Yes, so excited.
Yeah, white
I told Gary this. I think I told. Yeah, I told
another
Gary,
Mando.
I was like, I don't need Mandalorian Ahsoka. I'll just keep like the Rebels version and get the re-release because to me the bigger Montrals is like more what she should look like. So I'll just use that for like
exactly.
live action.
I mean, that's true too. But I also predict that they're gonna do another Mandalorian, but this time you get the shiny stick.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, again, for people who paid the outrageous like $80 price tags for those carbonized Mandalorians and all that stuff when it first dropped, I'm sorry for you because that suit was only in like 2 episodes. And then for the people that spent another like 80 or however many on the Black Series Beskar look when it was really hard to find, I am sorry because they're going to just keep milking Mando as much as they can with all the new stuff they're giving him. So... yeah,
and also just to keep it like toy photography wise.
Yeah,
I want to say that also like I feel like a lot of us toy photographers got it so close to how Mandalorian and Ahsoka were gonna meet. Like I've seen so many pictures where Ahsoka like holding him, holding the child, and they're in the woods or something like that. And the only difference is it's not the woods; it's a desolate ass forest. I mean, it's just terrifying, and it ain't so happy.
Yep,
it's like the Pride Lands when Scar took over.
Yeah,
it really did. Like
exactly.
The Pride Lands when Scar took over.
Yeah,
and I was just like, wow, even more people are gonna start shooting because I was gonna shoot something like I want to say last week with my 4-star rumble before I took it down. I was like, you know what? I got this new Ahsoka. I had an image in my head where Ahsoka is like standing on top of the little mound that I have.
Yeah. And
she's looking down at both Mando and the child. And I was going to have it sort of like angled from like the child's perspective where you can only see Mando's leg and then the child, but then you see Ahsoka in full view.
Yeah.
And she's looking down and them looking up. And I was going to do that shot. And I was like, I don't feel like doing that shit anymore. I wish I did.
Well, yeah, you would have been pretty accurate. And I definitely agree. I was scrolling through IG after, obviously, like earlier today when I had watched it last night. And I was like, damn, a lot of these collectors like posted this a while ago. And I mean, they were pretty spot on. Like these are already some really good shots on like what we saw. So it was pretty cool to see. Bryan, I know you had one other thought as well that I heard.
Yeah. So next like, if we're doing this weekly, right? Like leading
Yeah,
up, because we only have
yeah.
like what 3 episodes left.
Yeah.
We left 3 more episodes. So, what is your real prediction for what's your big prediction for like the next episode?
So I think I already told mine, but mine's just gonna be them going to Tython, I think, and Grogu obviously either choosing his path, or it's like a little mysterious and it ends before he chooses his path, or just maybe their journey towards Tython and then they get intercepted by Moff Gideon, something like that. I have no idea, but I think it's definitely gonna involve that spearheaded direction, and whether or not they get to the planet or they have to make a detour or get intercepted is up for grabs, but I think that's definitely going to be the direction the episode will head.
Yeah, I don't have any predictions. I'm just gonna roll with it. Roll with it.
All right. So my big prediction is that if they get to Tython and he gets in the temple, I think we're gonna see Yoda talk to Grogu.
Whoa! I would die. I'd be so.
That'd be sick.
I would love that so much.
That'd be so sick.
That's a great prediction. I like that.
You are.
Well, I mean, it would be very much also be a callback to Rebels, where Ezra, sits when Kanan, Ezra, and Ahsoka go in the temple, and they all have their, I guess experience.
Exactly.
It'd be very similar to when Ezra. I don't know if that's when he gets his crystal or if that's a different time he goes to the temple. But either way,
That's a different episode.
It'd be very interesting to see. I would love that. I just don't know. Is Grogu would we see Grogu talk then, or is it just gonna be a tell? That's where I'm like, I don't know what would happen, but I'm so open to that idea. That idea would be awesome.
I thought it was pretty cool that.
And I have another thing. I feel pretty bad for people who backed that Razor Crest, because I have a feeling that since they put the tracker on it, I think Moff Gideon's going to blow it up. Like he's going to shoot it down or something.
That's also true.
And then people are going to be like, well, I guess I'm going to get 2 seasons worth of shots out of this.
Well, again, I mean, I feel like the Razor Crest is so iconic for Mando, similar to how the Falcon's iconic to Han, although that's way more iconic. I feel like no matter what, it'll probably come back in some fashion, whether it takes a ton of damage like it did in the first couple episodes and is rebuilt, or if it's completely destroyed and he makes a new one, similar to the I think it's the Quinjet in Guardians of the Galaxy, where it's completely destroyed and he gets a new one. Or is that the Milano? Milano. Thank you. The Quinjet's the Avengers plane. But either way, I definitely think we'll probably see it again, no matter what, because again, the Razor Crest is so iconic. I highly doubt they'd just swap ships like that. But again, honestly, Mando's kind of been throwing me for loops with these episodes, so I really don't know.
Yeah, man. 3 episodes left. I'm ready.
Yep.
I'm excited.
So just to wrap up real quick, first of all, just an announcement is I know Bryan is going to be hopefully joining me every Friday to review these episodes. I'm hoping, Gary, you join me as well, because you were a fantastic guest to have on here to review them. And I'm hoping also my other co-hosts, Finn and Alex, can join me as well, because they were both preoccupied tonight. But we are hoping to do this weekly for the Mandalorian show.
Maybe not Alex, but maybe come on. He's cool.
But yeah, we're hoping to do this weekly for the Mandalorian show, and to kind of get it also going for more current stuff that's also coming out recently that all 3 of us and obviously guests will start watching. But yeah, I want to thank Bryan, a reoccurring guest and who will stay a reoccurring guest, for joining me. I would like to thank Gary, the first time him ever being on this podcast, and certainly not the last, because we've been wanting to get Geeky Fresh on here for literally since almost we started the podcast. So you will definitely be joining us for a regular episode coming up soon, and hopefully for next week's review of this as well. But thank you both for coming. You guys can both do your plugs real quick of your accounts, of everything you got going on, and then we'll wrap up.
You can find me on Instagram, Geeky Fresh, all the E's to 3's. And that's pretty much it.
You can find me on cap.lives on Instagram, cap_lives on Twitter, and then you can find me at caplives on YouTube. I upload videos on ACBA Setup from time to time, and you can find me on the Big Heads podcast every Monday.
Yes, sir. Awesome. And then I know probably all of you who are on this channel probably knows, because I say it in every video, but please go watch our other Shutterbugs episodes where we had 796 on, Bryan, Chris, as well as the Shooting Figures episodes. You can find me on A1_Groundwalker on Instagram, and our Shutterbugs podcast IG as Shutterbugs on Instagram. Thank you guys for watching. See you all later.
Peace.
All right. I thought that was really fun.